This week on Backyard Footy.
I'm not going to mention the agents' names. Okay, I'm not going to mention that because I have to have a little bit of class, right, Philip? Anyway, two agents. I asked both of them, can you tell me the finalists for the job? Can you tell me who they're looking for? And these are the words they said to me. And I sat at home and I almost cried. They said, Brian, they're looking for a Latino or a Spanish coach. They said those words to me, and I'm sitting there going, wow. What if I'm an agent and they call me and they ask me the same question where we're looking for a coach in D.C. Brian, can you tell me who they're looking at? If I were to say to these white men, they're looking for a black coach, how would they take that?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they said that to me, and I'm sitting here, and I'm going, oh my, they just said to me, you're not being considered. We're looking for a Latino or Mexican. I mean, straight up, without battering their eyes. I'm sitting there going, do they even realize the climate that we're living in now? And I just said, okay, guys, thank you very much. That's all I said.
What's up, Footy fans? It's your host, Hugh Roberts, a.k.a. Superhuman. We're back live for the 41st episode. I have another impactful episode for you guys. This is the Black Lives Matter Coaches Edition, where we dive into the coach's journey and listen to the struggles of a black coach here in America and how they overcome obstacles just to coach. If you haven't listened to the first edition, please go back, listen to the players' side. I have already part 1 and part 2 up. Listen to how us players have gone through the realm here in America, growing up as black players, what we're kind of, labeled as, and how we even persevered through a lot of obstacles to get to where we are now. And on a bright note as that as well, because of the second episode, FC Cincinnati donated $250,000 to diversity units and groups in the community and locally. So it's all because of a conversation, but that's a good step, and that's why we continue to have these conversations, And like I said, I appreciate you guys as well for following along and supporting this. I'm very excited to share with you guys these guests that I have lined up for you. All of them overcome massive obstacles just to get their licenses, just to get to coaching opportunities, just to get to where they are today. So I'm very excited because they also not only overcame obstacles, but they've impacted kids like myself, definitely in the DMV area, whatever area they've been to. A lot of them have panned out to the national team. A lot of them have gone on to the top colleges. And a lot of them, because of these coaches and, overcoming these obstacles, have helped us in the next generation. So I switched things up a little bit. I won't be giving you an intro this time. I gave everybody each time in the beginning to talk about their journeys and the obstacles they overcame. So in the audio you'll hear we're already into Nicole Hercules' intro. I accidentally hit record 15 seconds too late, so we already jumped straight into the show. But Nicole Hercules is a part of the United Soccer Coaches, the Black Coaches Advocacy Group, the first woman to hold the role. She's also the assistant coach of the Rochester Lancers and one of the main advocates for blacks in soccer. Let's tune into the show. Let's get it. Thanks for joining in.
And excited to share this stage with so many of my friends and amazing people and colleagues that we have here today.
Appreciate you, Nicole.
Okay, so I'll go after. I'm Gal, a former soccer player. I played on the national team. I even played with Brian Haynes back in Colorado. We played on the Maryland base together. I've known Brian for a long time. I remember Brian. Brian was a great player. And, I know Hugh told us that he's on the Trinidad team, but he's championships here, And we all coach Nicole. Thanks for going first. Nicole has been a big part of Black Coaches. I've grown leaps and bounds since she's been in charge. Just thank her for that. And I'm just looking at this panel.
I'll go next. Andrew Bunnerda. I played at Middlebury College in Vermont, so up by Coach Bo in Dartmouth. So after Middlebury, ended up coaching. So it's funny, one of my very first games was actually against a coach in this panel, which is Justin Reed. So coaching U10s, my first game. I'm not really sure the score, but I like to convince myself that we won.
No.
No.
So I've been coaching club for 10 years now. Just recently, I was one of the coaches at Washington Adventist University in Tacoma Park, NIA school. Just really part of rebuilding that program and kind of bringing prominence to the school, which has been a great challenge, but also very fulfilling. I've worked on various projects with Justin Reed, whether it's coaching seminars or a tournament, and then I'm also part of the Black Soccer Coaches Association with Nicole Hercules. And then Coach Philip Zhao, I know him, from my youth days. So either getting training from him or, at Bullis High School where he coached at and where I went to high school as well. We have a relationship from that. So.
I'll go. My name is Bo Shani. Currently a head coach here at Dartmouth, college, going into my third season, here. I was able to play, for quite a bit, played against Hainsey, back in the day, and, was the first African-American goalkeeper, to ever start a game in, Major League Soccer, which was awesome. I won an MLS Cup and, a few national championships in college. Then turned over into, the coaching side of things. And, I was able to be an assistant at, Wake Forest, Penn State, and then finally got my own program, at ETSU. And, then made the jump to Dartmouth. And like I said, it's been, quite a journey, to be honest. And, Hugh, when you reached out, I definitely thought, this, would be a great platform, to just talk, about, basically being black and, being a coach, in this environment, because it's a challenging, every single day, whether you're, a club coach with U.S. Soccer, college, MLS, whatever the case may be, it's a challenge, and I think, just coming together like this, is really, really important. So thanks again for having me.
Of course, thank you.
I'll go. Really? My roommate's got a vacuum now? Anyway, he must have heard me talking. Again, my name's Brian Haynes, and I came from Trinidad a long time ago. Probably some of you guys weren't even born yet, 1985. Is when I came to America and went to a small NAIA school for 4 years. And I was very excited when I got out because I just wanted to go work with my mom in New York. I decided to take up a gentleman who wanted me to play indoor soccer. I'm like, what the heck is that? He said he was going to pay. I said, that sounds good. And so I started playing indoor, and then I went from indoor to outdoor. Met Philip in 92. I'm not going to say what year I started, Phil. Met Philip in 92 and 91 actually in Maryland with the Bays, and we went 17-2 that year. And I have a great story to tell you guys about the bonus system that year. The greatest thing that ever happened to me. Anyway, so I ended up playing with Philip that year, and then we played with the Colorado Foxes for a couple of years. I finished up my A-League playing in Seattle with the Sounders, and then Major League Soccer came around. Played for 5 years there, and then Mike Jeffries was the coach who brought me on as an assistant coach, and I ended up being an assistant coach in Dallas for 4 more years after that. Fast forward, straight out of the MLS, I decided to do some of my coaching. I did different places. Started off basically in 2009, and I've been coaching, with different academies and different big clubs until now. And actually in 2013, I got my first opportunity to become a head coach, and I became the head coach in Atlanta. And I was very excited about that because, as a black coach, to become a head coach. And then what I did, I brought another player who I played professionally with, Franklin McIntosh, as my assistant. And I was very proud because I had an all-black staff. And we did really well. We went from last place to first. We lost in the finals to the New York Cosmos. And I was very excited how well we did. And I was expecting greater things to come. But I will get back to that when we talk later on. Oh. And because I don't need to talk about it now. But again, I continue to keep coaching, and I've been in the academies until this year. I started off with Inter Miami, and right when U.S. Soccer decided we're not going to give you any more money to create your homegrown players, and stop the DA. That's how I see it. That's when Inter said, no, we don't need the 19s anymore. That was the team I was coaching. And they said goodbye to me. And I said, thank you very much. And I've been looking for a job in this beautiful COVID temperatures and everything. But I'm a believer. And I can't believe when things are dried up one place is because you're being set up to go somewhere else. And so no hate whatsoever to anybody or anything, but I'm glad for this opportunity. And again, there's a couple of things I want to share with you guys in this whole podcast that's really good for Black coaches that I'm gonna, Philip Jarrett's gonna be excited to hear it too. Awesome. Because it involves Trinidad a little bit. So as far as I'm concerned, very excited to be here, and I'm just hoping that we can have a good conversation and we can get something accomplished.
Of course, thank you.
That's me. Done.
All right, I'll go next. So Hugh, thank you very much for putting this on. You and I have a history, of course, knowing each other through the Curling Sports Agency. That's when I represented you. I think it was Richmond Kickers you were playing with at the time. So good. It's great to see you still at Charlotte Independence and you're, continuing your career. So Justin Reed, I was born in Canada, but I was raised in Washington, D.C. So it's a place that I've called home for the last 38 years of my life. I played at the University of Delaware from 2000 to 2004. After college, I actually coached for Lincoln Phillips. He had a club called Chesapeake Athletic Dragons. I don't know if many of you guys know about the club. I think, Andrew, you played on the club for a little bit. So I did that first summer, and that was kind of my introduction to coaching after playing in college. Lincoln's a mentor of mine, Myron Garnes as well. He's a mentor of mine, and he kind of took me under his wing and gave me opportunities to coach at, Reston and Herndon, Virginia. Sometimes we'd have to leave our area, Prince George's County, probably around 2 o'clock just to beat the traffic and to get to a training session at 5:30, 6 o'clock. But that was the dedication that he had, and I definitely wanted to learn as much from him as possible. After coaching under Myron, I started my own organization called Quick Feet Soccer for Kids. As you can see, we're kind of having a little bit of technical difficulties here with the screen. My 7-month-old, she actually dropped my laptop yesterday, so I think that's probably why the screen is acting up. But anyhow, so I started that back in 2005, 2006. It's a program for kids as young as 2 years old, goes to 7 years old, and that's just our niche. And we move the kids on all to the various clubs throughout the Washington, D.C. area. So, with Quick Feet has given me the opportunity to start as young as 2 and go all the way up to professional and just really learn about soccer at all different levels. And it's been a great experience.
Hey, but Justin, 1 second.
Yeah.
Didn't say that game. Andrew said he won, but you guys never mentioned the score.
15-0. Quick Feet. It's about 15-0. Easy.
That must have been a dream.
Yep. Maggie.
I didn't know I was next. I thought it was someone else. There's a lot of people on this call. So this is probably like the first panel call webinar I've ever done with like a lot of panelists, but I'm super grateful for the opportunity. Hello everyone, I'm Maggie and Tim. I'm currently a soccer agent, CEO of Trinity Free Agency. My journey into soccer was a little bit different from everyone else's. Couldn't play. The most I could do is, if I was lucky, try to get a basketball and kick the basketball as a soccer ball, because my family could not afford, to put me through the programs for it. So I ended up playing basketball instead. But soccer was always like a first love of mine, having family coming from Ghana and Jamaica. So of course, it's like, it's in our blood, it's first nature. And for me, I started my career in the music business on the marketing side and partnership side, and kind of done that for a couple of years, and then went on to work for companies like Madison Square Garden, Coca-Cola, artists like 50 Cent, and then being able to work alongside of companies like FIFA, MLS, and then working with talent such as like Kylian Mbappe, Jadon Sancho, and then of course representing guys like Hugh, and a few others. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity. to be here. So thank you.
Of course, no, thank you. So listen,
You didn't mention any coaches.
You said what?
You didn't mention any coaches.
I don't have any coaches on my roster.
I mean,
Oh.
I'm just saying,
listen,
bro, I'm looking for a job,
first of
bro.
all,
that's why we're here connecting, right?
let me say
I'm
this.
looking for a job.
Let me say this.
What am I wasting my time for?
No, you were one of when Hugh told me the names of people on this panel. I said, Brian. I said, but I've literally been telling so many people from the MLS that he should be considered for the Atlanta United job.
Well,
Your name was the
you know,
first name that I recommended
okay.
for a coach.
I'm not going to mention the agents' names. Okay, I'm not going to mention that because I have to have a little bit of class, right, Philip? Anyway, 2 agents. I asked both of them, can you tell me the finalists for the job? Can you tell me who they're looking for? And these are the words they said to me, and I sat at home and I almost cried. They said, Brian, they're looking for a Latino or a Spanish coach. They said those words to me, and I'm sitting there going,
Wow.
what if I'm an agent and they call me and they ask me the same question where we're looking for a coach in DC? Brian, can you tell me who they're looking at? If I were to say to these white men, they're looking for a black coach, how would they take that?
Right.
And they said that to me, and I'm sitting here, and I'm going, oh my, they just said to me, you're not being considered. We're looking for a Latino or Mexican. I mean, straight up, without battering their eyes. I'm sitting there going, do they even realize the climate that we're living in now? And I just said, okay, guys, thank you very much. That's all I said.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is to be honest, Brian, this is the history of MLS. I mean, when the league first started 25, 26 years ago, Lincoln went to Sunil Gulati and said, hey, he's interested in coaching in MLS. And Sunil Gulati laughed at him.
Yeah.
You know, ever since then, we've probably had maybe 3 or 4 black coaches.
Yeah.
We've never had any African-American coaches. You can't consider Robin Fraser. He's Jamaican. Thierry Henry, he's from France. But African-American coaches, we've never had any full-time, not interim.
Yeah.
So.
And you even think about Kobe Jones, who was an interim coach, and he didn't even get an opportunity. When you think of the player, former national team player pipeline, it's not black players. Like, someone with the legacy of Kobe Jones couldn't even get a job.
Right.
Ezra's won a couple of championships himself. Ezra Hendrickson.
Yeah.
Assistant coach.
Assistant.
Assistant.
Assistant. Yeah.
He's from my island, St. Vincent. Assistant. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think, like you said, Brian, I think the biggest thing is that these, GMs and agents and, they're not even considering African-American guys for these jobs. They'll give them Seattle 2 or, Atlanta 2, whatever that is, they'll have no problem, looking at them in those regards. But, when, like you said, when they're talking about a first team job, there's not a guy that really comes to mind that you can say he has a really legit shot at being considered.
Here's a quick tidbit for you guys. In 2013, I was voted by all the coaches in the league in the NASL Coach of the Year.
I saw that too.
Right, 2013 Coach of the Year. Guess who I played in the final? The New York Cosmos. Guess who was the coach? Anybody know?
Portland coach.
Who's that
Portland coach right now?
Yeah, my boy.
Gio. Yeah.
Gio got a head coaching job. I didn't even get to interview for an assistant.
Wow.
Yep.
You know what I got? I sent my resume to Colorado because Philip knows my family and everybody they're in Colorado. I send my resume there. And I get nothing back, not even the email back, thank you for your email, nothing, right? And then I heard Pablo got the job. I'm like, well, good for Pablo, because I know Pablo. Can you at least give me an interview? No interview. So this is the irony of life, man. All of a sudden, 2 years ago, in Atlanta, the final, Portland is there playing against Atlanta. Giovanni Savarese playing against Atlanta, the city I coached in. And he is a head coach in the MLS Cup. And I'm going, all I needed was an interview. That's all I wanted. I never got it. I never made a stink about it. But what I'm saying to you is that, why is it? This is how I see it. It's a race that has already started. When the race started, we all started at the same time. However, the black coaches were 40 yards back. And they said, oh, you get equal opportunity. You're starting at the same, no, yo, we starting at the same time, but we starting 40 yards back, man. So without even giving us an interview, without even looking at us, and you're saying, oh yeah, they have equal opportunity. No, they don't. I played in Dallas for 5 years. I played in Dallas for 5 years. I coached for 5 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten the Humanitarian of the Year award when I left, because they're only looking for bad guys. Maybe that's what it was. And I played in Dallas. I behaved myself. I was assistant, never got an opportunity.
Well, you know what's interesting?
It's unfortunate.
When I was at Dallas playing.
If you're a bad guy, we would have all heard about it, Brian. We would
I
have.
know,
We
man.
definitely would
That
have.
too, definitely.
I know, man. There's no question about it.
It's really unfortunate because when they initially put out the head coach, or the people that they were considering for this Atlanta United position, when I first saw the list, they only had one Latino on the list, and it was actually the guys from the Black Players Coalition that pointed it out, that there was like a lack of diversity, and there were no Black coaches, there were no like just people of color on that list. And MLS decided to repost a statement stating that it's like they were called out. To me, I'm like, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that you need players to tell you things that you should already know, or that if you're claiming that you're all about change and about embracing diversity, that shouldn't even be something that should be told to you. It should be saying, okay, you know what, there's a position for a head coaching job. Let's look at the candidates. Let's look at some candidates that we've never even looked at. Let's consider, our options. And to me, like I said, when the players asked me, I said, Brian. And they were like, Brian, Silverbacks? Yep. And they're like, why? I'm like, it's Atlanta. One is Atlanta United. He already has a history. You know who this man is. And we're talking about the culture of the city of Atlanta. Like, it only makes sense. And they're like, man, we were thinking the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, so bring it up. Make that suggestion. Bring it up. Let's keep pushing.
We really have to talk about the lack of Blacks and people of color in decision-making positions. The fact that there are zero majority owners, there are zero CEOs and presidents. And then think about this. When I had the conversation with the MLS and MLS Academy, it came out that the 2% that they have for general managers is counting Ali Curtis twice.
Yeah, in New
Counting
York.
him twice.
Yeah,
you're counting the man 2 times.
Yeah.
Well, Nicole, that's what I worry about, even with this, Black coalition, is that predominantly, isn't that mostly players? I'm not sure. I can't remember all the guys that are on there, but
it's 100 of them.
As a player, you have to watch it. You know what I mean? Because as much as MLS will talk about, we want diversity, we want change and things like that, you will be blackballed. You know what I mean? At some point. And so I feel like with that, Black coalition, it's almost, would it be better to have some guys that aren't in the league anymore, that don't really have anything to lose by speaking
That's happening too.
What's happening too? I think they have.
That's where I feel like you can make a change.
That's happening.
Okay, because that's where I agree with you. I think unless you have somebody else outside the game that can really try to make some decisions that really has nothing to lose in doing that, then I think you can hopefully have some people that can speak out honestly and not really care about the ramifications that might come.
Didn't that 19-year-old kid from Manchester United speak out? Rashford?
Yeah.
He spoke out, and he's still playing.
Sterling.
Still
Sterling, for years.
And why is it that England's listening? They're the ones that started.
Look at their league. Look at the players in their league. They need us.
It's totally different.
It wasn't the MLS. It was England.
Right.
Why? Because of Floyd. That's when it started. That's when England said, "No, that's enough of that." And this guy raised thousands of dollars, Rashford, where the Queen honored him because of what he did.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, man. I'm telling you, it's when I look at this thing, I'm sitting there going, what? Why
But
is okay?
why
Let me
did
ask
this
you guys
hit people though? Why did this hit people and not the other,
That's
the
true.
hundreds
Question.
before?
Right,
I don't
right.
understand that.
It's
Why was
really
it this case?
I think it has before, but
Cruelty what that guy did.
yeah, like when you watch that,
When it's the
it's
hands
just
in the pocket. I
it-
couldn't
it's-
watch it.
Back.
and even when I
Uh,
first watched the video, I'm like, man, this seems more personal because that smirk on his face,
Yes.
that's like a personal
evil.
situation. So
It's evil.
it made me even want to go
that
back
was
and look
privilege, like you
what
won't
was the
believe.
history. Yeah, but that's why
Oh.
when I went back even and heard that like there was history prior to, because I'm like, it had to have been. It had to have been some type of, history. Maybe something happened, but it's just, I mean, it hit hard, but I also feel like too, that was it. That was it. That was the moment where everyone said, okay, you know what, we're just fed up. We're fed up. We're extremely fed up.
Bo, let
And-
me ask you this. Bo, in '96,
Hey,
do you remember we had to go through some classes in the MLS because there was a racial name called to a player from New England?
Yep.
Do you know where that player was from?
I don't actually know.
Uh-oh.
He was from Denmark. And Philip knows where the other player who was called the N-word was from. Trinidad.
Wow.
David Nackett.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
David Nackett, yeah.
Wow.
Guys, what
1996,
policies?
man.
What
19
policies were in place back there, guys? Did you guys have a
None.
review board?
None.
No.
Here's a question.
What they
Here's
did-
a question. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
What they
Sorry,
did
Brian,
was
go ahead.
this. They fined him, right, a certain amount of money. And instead of him having to pay the money to the league, they used the fine money to have classes to all the teams.
Hmm.
The same thing
So
that's
that we could
happening
understand.
now. Oh,
We got to
Wow.
get along with all different. That's what they did. And I called David and I go, yo, we're from Trinidad. Why am I doing things that we've been doing all my life? He goes, what do you mean? I go, I'm doing these classes to understand races. I grew up in a Trinidad and Tobago that's so much smaller. And we have Indians, we have whites, we have blacks, we have Chinese, all of us, and we live together.
yeah.
And the first place I was called black was in America.
Yep.
Mhm.
So you tell me, what's
Yep.
the problem here? What am I doing? And so that was in 1996.
Right.
It was just, okay, let's be
No big deal.
nice,
Right.
and nothing came of it.
Well, in 2007, I mean, the MLS put together their so-called Rooney Rule that they haven't necessarily fulfilled in any way. I think another example, Brian, kind of goes back to what you mentioned about the Latino coach that Atlanta is looking for currently. About 4 years ago, Brad Friedel got the job at New England Revolution.
Right.
And all he had to do was fulfill the so-called Rooney Rule by contacting a coach at Boca Juniors in Argentina. He had no interest in coaching in MLS. They reached out to him. They got on the phone. Are you interested? No. That was it.
Done.
That was their fulfillment of the Rooney Rule. Next day, Brad Friedel got the position.
Yeah.
So, I mean, MLS, when it comes to their front office, they look at that as diversity. They always get high ratings from TIDES, the Institute and Ethics
no
of
sense.
Diversity in Sport. They get their high ratings there, and they're good. They could care less about what the clubs do.
Yeah, it's true. They're very I mean, from a player side, or at least like me being an agent, whenever I'm talking to, guys from these clubs, a lot of times it's the question of like, okay, your players, and usually I only present players that are of color, and so I'm like, this is who I have. I have some of the Latin players because I know that's the main demographic that MLS wants most of the time. And half of these guys don't even understand. I'm like, if you're going to get these guys from South America, the problem coming here is the language barrier, because some of those guys don't even speak English.
Yeah.
So imagine having a team and even front office that barely has people that are from a different nationality.
Right.
And so
I mean,
it's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago, I represented a player, Hernan Grana, and he was from Argentina, and he played for Columbus Crew. I remember having to go to Columbus and speak to him through a translator, and he had no interest in being in Columbus. I mean, if you've ever gone to Columbus, I know they're building a new stadium now, but it's in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
It's cold. He had just recently given birth to a baby boy, and his wife couldn't come up. And I mean, he was miserable. So he just decided to say, forget it. I'm not going to finish the season. I'm just going to go back home. and that's what he ended up doing. And I think he went to FC Dallas later. But the way that Major League Soccer looks for their players, to me, it just doesn't really make any sense. And that was part of the reason why I didn't want too much more to do with dealing with MLS. I kind of dealt with the USL players representing them, like Hugh and others. And I mean, that to me seems to be a better fit.
Yeah.
You know?
And we're
Agree.
talking about the
Agree.
men's side, but the National Women's Soccer League, their numbers
Oh
are
my
horrendous.
gosh, forget
I just
about
Yeah.
it.
to them
Yeah.
Not
the
one.
worst.
Glad
They
you
have
Not
never had a
one.
black head coach ever. And even when you're talking about on the men's side, the black men who have received coaching jobs have been under the umbrella that the other white coaches have received. So even when you're talking about Ezra, and we even started talking with Brian Reed, like they're friends with Steve Sampson or Ziggy or something like that. So they've been under that umbrella and have been just, their work is so good you can't ignore it, that they've been under that umbrella. But if you're not, yikes, it's hard.
Yeah.
But the National Women's Soccer League, they have a big problem on their hands. And I think they did a great job with the visual, and I'm glad they used the right word. When I talked to them, they're like, yeah, it was very performative. And I was like, thank you for using that word, because what's next? What are your action steps? And that
That's
was
the
the
same
correct,
question.
but they said that. But I'm glad they said it, that they knew it was performative because it looked good. You had everyone with the Black Lives Matter shirts, staff, everyone as one team coming together, and it looked good. But what's next? What are we actually going to do to address the issues? You know, so we have problems here, guys, but we can
It's
find
a
some
lot of
solutions.
it's a lot of problems. But yeah, we're
I
gonna figure it
have a
out.
question for the coaches. How many of you coaches have a UEFA A license?
Not a coach, so I'll let you go.
None
I
on this call?
I gotta
How
get
many
into
of
the
us?
course first.
I think Isaac's the only one. Jacob, he's on.
Do you know why?
I know.
Oh,
Do you know
Philip
why?
doesn't?
Do you know why?
Oh, I don't know why I've been blocked from.
He's been blocked. Yeah.
Really?
I just
What?
Yeah,
why
I've just
does
been
Isaac
blocked.
have it?
Like,
Yeah,
Huh?
anybody-
You've been
nobody
blocked?
knows
What
why.
did you say?
Yes.
You said something?
so
He has
just
ties to England, man. That's why.
Mhm.
That's
Justin,
why he has it.
Justin,
How about,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was saying, like, in terms of the courses, they're not very transparent in their guidelines, right? So they'll say, so I've been denied from the USSFB 3 times in a row. 3.
Mm-hmm.
Not every single time, right? As a college coach, coached ODP, coached club for a number of years, right? Did all my United Soccer coaching diplomas. So I have
Of course.
that course, right? That's done. I've done all the extra clinics. So I applied the first time, got denied, generic message. Applied the second time, denied, generic message. Now, I said, Justin, because Justin at the time, he compiled a list of college coaches, right, who were Black, coaching in all 4 levels, right?
Mhm.
And I kid you not, we have more on this call. Like, we have more than half on this call that represent college coaching. More than half.
Mm-hmm.
Representing all levels, right? So I said, Justin, okay, like, what can I do? He's like, all right, I'll call somebody from US Soccer, right? So at the time, it's Charlie, I think his name is Charlie Noble.
Yeah, Charlie Noble. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was.
Charlie, right? So with Frank Tashan was like, yeah, I'll call you or I'll touch base with you in a week. Month goes by. Here, I'm gonna forward you to Charlie. Charlie's like, okay, 2 weeks, I'll call you. Charlie calls me with another lady. I think it's her name, Amanda. I don't know her last name, but she's on the call. So they're looking at my profile. They're like, well, your profile looks good. You should get into the course. I said, okay, well, what are the standards, right? Or what am I missing specifically? Or what do I need to do to ensure that my profile is appealing enough to be accepted, right? You're saying that I don't meet the requirements, but what are those specific requirements? So there's no detail in that, right? So they're like, yeah, your profile looks good. Just make sure, everything's verified. It's already been verified 3 times. I apply, same generic message. And I said, you know what? I'm not even gonna bother and apply for the next one. I'm gonna find other solutions. So been to Toronto, did a coaching study for 2 or 3 days. Been to Trinidad, looking at players, shadowing coaches. Been to Spain twice, getting a full rundown of the Barcelona philosophy. Been to Portugal, I found that exploring those avenues, I've learned more in like 2 days with a coach who is speaking a different language than I have in all my U.S. soccer coaching lessons. Speaking a different language with a translator.
I got 2 questions for you. 2 questions. Would you like to get your B license?
Absolutely.
I can make that happen.
Please.
One phone call. One phone call.
Okay.
My cost. One phone call.
Whatever it costs.
You
asking for money?
My cost. Okay? That's the first thing. The second thing, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Any of you guys, if I can set it up for you guys to take the UEFA A or B license, would you do it?
Yes.
Okay. Alvin Cornel is a UEFA certified A and B license coach professor. He gets to certified players all around the world. He was my coach in Trinidad when I grew up. His son, Anton Cornel, is also certified by FIFA to do those courses and to teach it. You know what Alvin said to me? Get the black coaches together.
Can we do this?
Do you hear what I'm
we
saying?
We can organize this fast. We can get this going quickly.
No. Here's the issue. He's in Trinidad. There's a travel ban.
Right.
So he's thinking right when the quote unquote MLS, if it happens, season ends, and the club and the college and all that stuff ends right before December. That will be the window where he could go somewhere warm and teach it. All he needs is a facility and a classroom, and he would come and do it. And the thing about it, he's going to tell us what the cost is.
Can you come to the US?
$10,000 if you go to Europe to do it. $10,000.
Right.
And that doesn't include the flights.
Right.
But he's willing to put it on for us as a favor to the black coaches.
So can he come to the US if we got a facility for him
fly from
in
Trinidad
Orlando?
To the US, to Orlando, to California, to Salt Lake, to Kansas City, anywhere has facilities,
that would be
then he could do it.
Oh, yeah,
and
let's do
willing
this.
to do that.
That's done.
And I told him, I said, you know what? I don't have a job right now, Alvin, but that would be much, much more worth a job to me if I could do that to help black coaches like that. Now when they talk about, okay, who we looking at? And all of a sudden they say, oh, we're looking at Frank de Boer. He has a UEFA A. Well, Philip Jow has an A. Brian Haynes has an A. What's the problem? We have all, and that's the thing. They always say that some of them are not. We all qualified. We all qualified, and then all of a sudden we have a coach who is more than able to do a B license and it's taking this long. Well, I call Mike Haas and go, listen, I have this one. I have Julius James wants to take it. I have this one, and he'll just say to me, get me 10, and I'll get them in. Because in the end, they want players and coaches who love the game to coach the game. But we've Eddie Johnson, who lived with me for 5 years. When he was 17, lived in my house. He used to say this to me all the time, and I'm like, shut up. He would go, hey, Z, closed mouths don't get fed, man. You got to open your mouth.
Now Eddie's opening his.
That's right.
And he was right.
Yeah.
And so guess what?
Yeah.
A couple of years after, now I'm opening my mouth a little bit. And I know that if I could, there was a guy walking the beach throwing starfishes into the ocean. Have you heard that story before? And the guy goes, all of them are not going to survive. He goes, one night. And as far as I'm concerned, if I could help one other black coach, I'm happy. And so with me, I've coached all these years and I want to go on further. And it's sad. Now I don't even want to be a head coach. I want to be a U18, U24. That's the age group I want to affect. And if a coach wants an assistant coach, he gets the best one because I've seen what assistant coaches do.
Do you want a job with the MLS Academy? Did you want to get in with the MLS Academy, or are you trying to do your own thing?
Well, MLS Academy.
You had Inter Miami, right?
I was at Houston, and I never coached in Dallas, but I was at both those. And Houston, I didn't like because I had a director that thought that he'd make the game of soccer and it was going to be his way or no other way. And I said, okay, no problem. Have it yourself, and I'm leaving. And I left. But in Inter, Jason Christ created the curriculum, and nobody wanted to follow it. I was the only coach who was following it. And I mean, listen,
Andrew.
I can call Jason right now and put him on the call, man. And he'll tell you. And I said, you know what, Jason? He goes, Hainsey, look, when I left here to go to Salt Lake to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, they went and hired 2 people just in case he didn't come back. What kind of business is that?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've never badmouthed the Inter Miami. But God has a way of not loving ugly, man. They lost 5 games in a row now.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 5. The USL team, they lost 2 out of 2. And I'm going, I wasn't there. I didn't have anything to do with it. But for some reason, you know, isn't that Whoopi that said it? Until you do right by me, nothing you do will prosper.
Yeah.
The color purple.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, going, do right by the black man, you'll prosper. But they didn't. And
It's true.
I looked at my resume. I looked at all the other coaches. You know who had the second best resume there? It was me. Jason, then me. And Jason,
You know what we
Goldman
have to
coached
do
the
a
team.
better job of is highlighting and promoting our coaches through our network and making sure that it's getting out, because we have so many talented coaches who are out there that once we start having the conversations, things start changing in the right direction. But I think a lot of times there's an implicit bias that our coaches can't coach, that we don't have people who are getting their license, that we don't have people who have run organizations before. But it's like, yes, we do. We have the quality. We have the value. We have a long list of people who will, it's in your benefits to bring them in. Diversity is the greatest thing you can ever imagine. If you have a whole bunch of people who think the same way, that's not what you want. You want diversity in thought. And right now the MLS will fail until you bring in some people who think a little bit differently. In decision-making roles, it's only going to help this league. And especially when we're thinking of someone like you, Hainsey, and some different coaches that we have out there, those opportunities needs to start coming this way. But as an association and as a group, we have to do a better job of hyping up our own group, making sure that that whole micro, and we call it micro devaluation, where we have people within our group who are like, no, it's not good enough. No, it's not. And there's no other race that does that, right? There's almost like there's people who are overconfident with their limited capabilities. And we have people who are so talented and doing amazing things who won't puff their chest out and say, hey, this is my body of work. Give me a shot. So we have to do a better job of making sure that we're highlighted and talking about all our top coaches so that when the time comes for our people to get a job, no one's surprised because we put it out there. We have a great opportunity. Great opportunity.
Coach Phillip, I wanted to give you a sec to, maybe share your experiences with challenges you face. I know you were going to say something a little while ago and someone cut you off. I wanted to give you a second to get back to that.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, ML, like sometimes they're looking at their fan base, and I think we need some more of us to just go and support the game, just going out and watching and showing a little bit of a presence, right? And then so I say, like if I United game, more than half of the fans are Spanish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that if I was a Spanish fan paying all this money and supporting the team, I want to see my own.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the MLS is kind of catering to that.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but I think they're also looking at that fan base and looking at that, that money. Atlanta, they're also looking at the fan base. They shouldn't have come out and say, oh, no, we're looking for a Latin coach. They could have had that. They should have just said, okay, come for the interview, but they already know who they're going to hire.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that.
You know what I mean? And so, and that happens a lot. And I've known Brian for a long time. I know what kind of person he is. He knows the game, coach. He's gone. He's had success. And then so you deserve that. You deserve it. But MLS, I think they're looking at the bottom line. I guarantee you, if there were a few more of us going to the game, supporting, spending the last dollar, they're buying drinks, parking, all of that.
True.
They're not going to chop off that just to please us, to say, okay, well, we need to get a couple of black people in. No, they're not going to do that. So until we show that, and then Andrew, you've done well. I mean, I used to coach you at Bullis. I was one of the coaches at Bullis, and I've seen what he's done. And for the coach's license, I wrote a letter for Matt. That's how he got his. You know that.
Yeah, that's how you do it, man.
Letter in order for Matt to get his license, and you just I'll do something like that too. I'll write a letter, of course.
Appreciate it.
And
It's gotta be done. It has to happen
happy.
next week, man.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
It'll be my
Long
fifth
overdue.
recommendation on the.
Nah. Forget about recommendation. We're going past all that.
Yeah.
Go straight to the federation.
I don't know. Brian and I, we just bring a different background, I guess. I'm not like tout my own horn or anything like that, but like sometimes,
Pioneers.
the background help you, right?
It's very simple. Pioneers. That's the name for it, right?
It's totally true. I think, I was fortunate enough to actually coach the licensing, here in with U.S. Soccer, and it's not easy to get in. But like Brian said and Philip said, all it is a phone call.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I can't tell you how many people I've made phone calls for that have either gotten their licenses or even failed their licenses and had an opportunity to do it again. Just because of a phone call. It's all political, in a lot of ways. And like I said, you just said it, Andrew. You can get the same type of experiences, if not better experiences, outside of U.S. Soccer, than getting your licenses. I went through the whole licensing courses, and I'll tell you right now, like you said, my time over in, with River Plate in Argentina for 2 weeks, I learned the light years more than I ever did in a U.S. Soccer licensing that I was just trying not to fail, let alone learn,
Right.
So, I think, like you said, I think having these contacts and having people, reach out for you, can definitely help.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with the unity aspect that Coach Phillip was saying. I feel like a lot of times you look at the attendance in the stadium, there's really not enough of our culture in the stands, our culture attending the games. I feel like that also speaks to the demographics where owners, as Coach Phillip is saying, is tending to steer towards the demographics in the city. Like even here in Charlotte, it's a big Spanish population, and I feel like they already signed a Spanish player as their first signing. They're getting ready to sign more Spanish players because of the community. But if we were to come out with strong numbers and support, maybe they'll start listening to us more because our dollars will start mattering some more. So what needs to change systematically to give us more chances as coaches and as players too? Because I also feel as players, we still don't get a lot of opportunities, even in the MLS or even as players, who retire and want opportunities to become coaches. We still have to take a 5 to maybe 10-year break and a gap to go around the system just to get an opportunity. So what needs to change?
Well, I would say in terms of players, there are a lot of black players in USL and MLS.
Yep.
I think when I ran the numbers, I think it was around 33 to about 40%. You add the Latino players to it. Black and Latino players are actually the majority in Major League Soccer compared to the white players. So I would say we have to kind of look at it more in the sense of mentorship, So we know we have Robin Fraser there. We know we have Thierry Henry. Are these guys just figureheads, especially Thierry Henry, seeing, he's a great player? Or these guys, coaches who can actually help along the black player who's going to retire soon from Major League Soccer and help him get an opportunity, very similar to the coach before, Ben Olsen, actually. So Ben Olsen has been at DC United for how many years, Andrew? Maybe 10, Philip? 10, 12 years. And he was an assistant coach before he took the head coaching role. Seeing that Ben is a mainstay in DC, people know him, people loved him as a player. At least he had the coach before who mentored him along. That's, I think, has to happen. So as soon as Ben retired from MLS, he became an assistant, and now he's a head coach. And I think Ben is probably 5 years older than me, about 43. And he's been there 10 years. So he's been a coach since 33.
You know what's interesting with what you just said, Justin?
So, it just doesn't make any sense.
What's interesting with what you just said is that it looks like we may even have to just go across color line, right? Because when I think about it, it was just going through my head as you were talking, the people who have had assistant coaching positions, their mentorship was under a white coach. It's because that's all there's ever been. So a lot of the challenges that we have to do, and many of the white coaches are ready for that. I know the conversation that we had with the MLS Academy was creating an executive director and mentorship program for the current players who are playing right now, so that they have a pathway into front office positions, general manager positions, and potentially head coaching positions as they're still playing, that they're being basically groomed for what's next. So I know there's a conversation that's happening and they're putting these things in place. I think what we have to do as leaders is to make sure that they're following through and executing on these ideas. Because again, if we're looking to just Robin and Thierry to do all this work, it's not going to happen. So we have to really trust some of these allies who recognize that there's a problem and it's a human problem. It's not just a black and white problem, and say, hey, we all know that this is an issue. You need to step up and mentor some of these young black players that are coming up, these young black coaches who are coming up. You got to say yes to mentoring them. And a lot of them will.
I don't think it's Robin and Thierry. I think it's Ali. I think it's Dennis. Those are the guys. Those are two guys that needs to be able to say, okay, so Armas is at least in New York. Armas is from Puerto Rico. I don't know if everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
He's Puerto Rican, okay? And he's been a head coach for 2 or 3 years now, right? And the thing about it is this: I believe isn't Zach Thornton in DC?
Yep. Zach's in DC.
Right.
Clint PA's in New England.
Right. So the thing about it is that at some stage we like you said, we're gonna have to have general managers who are in charge, who are gonna say, look, these are the guys we want. Ali Curtis called me and said, Brian, have you looked at my team? And I go, what do you mean, Toronto? He goes, yeah. He goes, I go, yeah. He goes, we're pretty dark, aren't we? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I don't have any darkies on the bench. That's what he said to me, as far as coaches are concerned. And he said, I'm not going to look to bring 6 coaches in, but
he has zero. Yeah, zero. He has zero.
Zero.
None.
And he said to me, he goes, I'm going to have to change it. I might not be able to change it all at once, but I'm going to do that. And he goes, I want to give it to people who know how to coach, and most importantly, good people.
Yeah.
And I know why he said that, because I was in Dallas when I saw some things happen, and I go, oh my goodness. Not only are you assistant coach, but you're from the same country and you're stabbing each other in the back? How does that happen? I mean, I was in Dallas, and Chris Bondi was there when it happened too, and I'm going, oh my goodness. One thing that happened when I was in Dallas, Eddie had an agent who called me to tell Eddie that he's going to be traded to Kansas City. I go, yo, you're his agent. Why don't you tell him?
Wow.
Yeah, well, he trusts you. And I'm going, no, I'm not doing that.
Your job.
That's not my job. I'm an assistant coach. Right. I said, right now I'm going to convention and I'm going to go represent Dallas, and this is going to be the last time. He goes, last time? Yeah, I'm leaving Dallas. I've seen too many knives pass there, and I'm just in between looking people stabbing the back. I got to go. I got to get out of there. And the person that gave me my job, he was stabbed in his back. Mike Jeffries. By who? His assistant coach. I was there. Then when he got the job, the assistant coach got the job. His, countryman, the same person that went from the same country, wasn't playing because he was hurt. And as soon as Mike lost his job, that person, who was a player on our team, got up off the bench. He had supposedly concrete in his joints, got up and did the warm-up and became the assistant coach. I was the second assistant. Colin was the first assistant. He got the job, and he promoted Steve Morrow above me, who was playing, to be the assistant coach. All of a sudden, Steve Morrow realized, I don't have my UEFA B license. I don't have a license. So he went back to Ireland. This is like a freaking movie, man. And I said, okay, here's my chance. The guy left. I'm definitely going to have a chance. No. Colin Clark went and hired John Trask as his assistant above me again. And I was the second assistant. Colin was the first. So he did a player, then he did a coach, and then all of a sudden, Steve Morris shows up, he fires John Trask, and he puts him back ahead of me again. And I said, that's enough. This is enough.
That's abuse.
Philip, this really happened, man. Sometimes when I tell this, I'm like, did that really happen? That shit happened, man. That happened. I'm like,
Brian,
Nah,
Brian, my question is, well, Zach Thornton is not getting DC United. If anything ever happened, Clint PA is not getting New England when something happens with Bruce Arena. So I think the question is, how do we figure out a way, so that these black coaches can actually get a legitimate opportunity? Because I was there when all that happened, in Dallas and, in the league, and we saw it all, and it's incredible. But I feel like that trend hasn't changed. You know what I mean? That's where I just feel like, I don't know. I'm asking the question because I just don't know. I don't know how we change this narrative, because
maybe like the MLS Black Players Coalition can look into. I know that you were mentioning before how the Black Players Coalition looked into the Miami roster and, told them they didn't have enough colored people on the roster. We need coalitions to back us up and be on top of every single organization and give coaches opportunities. Like, something's got to change. This can't keep going down for decades and decades when it's been going on for decades previously before, and now's the time to change.
And then that's where I think you're right, Hugh. And I just worry that this black coalition, how much impact are they going to be able to make? You know what I mean? Like, is this just, okay, this is the time, let's let them have their voice.
Yeah.
We're not
a year from now, it dissolves. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I almost – or they'll give us a little nibble here, they'll give us a little nibble there, but are they really going to, have change, and I guess the question is, too, is if we had to sit here and talk about black coaches right now, give us 5 black coaches right now that you think should be in MLS right now as head coaches.
Well, I'm going to give you an NWSL coach. Kadani McAlpin should be that Angels FC first head coach. Kadani McAlpin.
Listen,
I like that. I agree with that.
Nicole, I agree
that well, but I agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
100%. But I'll tell you, that's not even going to happen. Mainly because
Amanda.
yeah. I mean, let's be real. Like, as soon as the announcement happened, I texted Kadani I was like, if I got to represent you and bring you in, I'll do that, because I happen to know all the black owners a part of that LA group. And the first thing we were already talking about, whether it's players I represent, coaches, etc. But Kadani's like, I know, but then we see Amanda's a part of that.
Yeah.
And it's
it's years
just
from now.
It's very political, it's very political. It's just, I don't know.
Let's be honest. At USC, I'm sure Kadani's doing very well. USC is a very nice program that has a big endowment. So if he's making $150,000,
he's doing all right. Yeah.
Why would he go to NWSL?
He's doing very well.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But he is someone that I see coaching a national team one day. Sorry, go ahead.
I agree, Nicole, 100%. 100%. I mean, there are a few, and I will say this. It's interesting that, obviously you guys are talking about some of the experiences that you have experienced. And I've spoken to women, some female coaches, whether that's on a college level or professional level, even of a different race, that are going through similar situations. And it made me step back and think like, man, I can't even imagine what you guys deal with. But then to even hear females saying what they deal with, and we're talking about like white females, and a white female is dealing with that because whether she's the assistant coach to a white male who's the head coach, and a lot of people getting stabbed in the back, and I'm like, oh, I never really said like it doesn't happen in the Caucasian community, because yes, it does, and obviously like Brian, what you said about like Mike, Mike Jeffries, so it happens, but it's like, this is crazy. And it happened in the agent world. Like, I have agents that I went into agencies to interview with to be just a junior agent. And then they looked and was like, how the hell did she become an agent? And how did she get some of the better players that we can't even, have a conversation with? And I'm telling them like, hey, get used to me. And all the people you see of color who are amazing that you guys don't want to really shine talent on, guess what? I could be nice and work with you guys, and I want to move my players from USL to MLS. But if that's not going to happen, then I'm going to move them to Europe, and I get treated even better by the European clubs and agents and people there. But I prefer to keep them here in America, where they're from, so that we can focus more on that homegrown talent. because that's the whole point. If I'm MLS, that's what I should be focusing on, is how to develop the stars from here. That's what England does. That's what, you know, Germany and all those other places do. So it's the whole system just needs a serious change, and it's gonna take some time, but it's things like this, you know, it's calls like this where we're all coming together, and it's something that we have to do consistently and figure out, you know, how can we develop a better system and, you know, make changes.
Well, I'll be honest, that's half the reason I went into college coaching. You know, when I retired from, you know, Kansas City, you know, I knew for a fact there was no chance that they were going to hire me any capacity. You know, there.
Peter Vermees is going nowhere.
It was not, I didn't even think about it.
He's going to die there.
Yeah, you know, and so I just went straight, you know, into the college route, just because I felt like, you know, that's, you know, a place where, you know, let's be honest, the percentage of kids that we're talking about, black kids that are going to be pros, is a small amount, you know, but the percentage of black kids that are going to go to college, you know, that's a pretty large amount. And, you know, that's where I feel like, you know, even though there's a small number of us at the Division I level as head coaches, you know, I still feel like that's one area, you know, that, you know, we can try to make, you know, some inroads and things like that, and trying to take some of these black assistant coaches now and try to mentor them. Like, I can't tell you how happy I was about Trevor, you know, getting, you know what I mean?
Amazing,
like,
amazing.
I've been working with, I mean, talking to Trevor, you know, for years, and seeing him get passed over, and to see him finally, you know, get a job, you know, I think that's where I feel like, at least for me, you know what I mean? I feel like that's where, you know, we can, you know, really make, you know, some inroads. And even there, it's hard. But, you know, I do think universities now are open to interviewing and actually taking black coaches seriously, you know, right now, because the one thing that they do want is diversity on their campuses. So I do think that's, you know, one area that, you know, we can at least help. But like I said, I agree. I think the whole system needs an overhaul. I just wish I knew how to.
Serious. I mean, and yeah, I couldn't agree more on the college level. I mean, it's been great. The coaches on that level, they've been so supportive. I mean, because I had to start reaching out to my people first, because I knew that was, it's like, you know, you got to reach out to all the black coaches, and there's only but so many, at least like on a D1 level, you know, D2, D3. And then
11 for the men, 4 for the women.
Yeah, I'm probably like, I think I'm about 6 now for the men. Bo, I reached out to you, but I didn't hear back from you. Philip, I was coming for you next, but I said, once Hugh said, hey, we were going to be in it, I said, oh, this is perfect, because the 2 guys that were here, they're right here. So this is amazing. Andrew was actually one of the first people. So he was super embracive. I had to really, like, track down Kadani. Like, I mean, it took like 2 months to get Kadani.
Yeah,
so,
Kadani's
you know,
gotta, he takes a little bit.
Yes, it took about 2 months to get to him, a little bit to get to Shaka, but Shaka made the time, Kadani made the time, and so Bo and Phil, it's you guys next, you know.
I'm there.
Brian, I'm just honored. You know, I'm honored, but you know, let's talk.
Here's my list. You ready for my
Yeah,
list?
that's 5. Yeah, let's get
Yeah,
on 5.
I just wanted 5. That's it. Let's go.
Here's my list.
Let's see.
These are guys who should have head coaching jobs. Ezra, Brown.
Yes.
Brown was an assistant with Jason in Salt Lake.
That's
Very good coach, by the way. And he's been an assistant coach in New York now for I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
Here's another one, Carlos Llamosa.
Ooh.
Yeah. Carlos is great.
Carlos.
He has been assistant in New York. Now he's been assistant there. Give the guy some love.
Yep.
These are the question mark people. My name's not even there. I don't care about being a head coach. I want to be an assistant coach. To any good coach, I would love to be an assistant. These are my question mark people. Where are they, and why aren't they the ones saying these guys deserve a chance? Des Armstrong, national team player, great person, done so much in the soccer community. Des Armstrong. Where's he? Tony Senna, Kobe Jones, Eddie Pope. These are guys that played for years on the national team. For years, back-to-back World Cups and all that. I mean, DeMarcus Beasley should have a say in all this.
They talk about it.
But these are guys who've all been involved, and these are the guys who need to be out front saying,
and Gucci
these
and
ones got to be in.
A good one.
These guys got to be in.
Gucci.
And I watch them. They have no problem putting these people in the Hall of Fame. But all of a sudden, people coming out the Hall of Fame saying, "Hey, what about this guy? What about that guy?" And I think those are the people that needs to spearhead the whole thing. Like somebody said earlier, we got to be careful for the guys who are playing to be blacklisted. I get all that, but you got to break some, crack some eggs if you want to make
some
an omelet.
inroads. You gotta make some
definitely.
inroads somewhere at some point.
And I think we need people to
Brian,
spare.
when you mentioned Eddie, Eddie's on the agent side now.
Yeah, he's on the
Yeah,
agent side.
Octagon. He's with Octagon.
Well, actually, he's just a face. They just use him as a face to
Gibbs
bring
is
in
in
all the
there
black
too, isn't
people.
he?
Yeah,
Corey
they just
Gibbs.
use them as the face to bring
Corey
all the
Gibbs.
black
Oh, Corey
people,
Gibbs is
you
doing
know?
a great job too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did Chris Bondi decide he don't want to be a coach? Oh, he went to college. Okay, all right.
Well, I think
He's a college guy.
we all look at it like that, Brian.
Yeah.
Like I said, I agree. I mean, we know, like, if C.J. Brown, if Tony Sana, whoever, can't get jobs, and they played, at the highest level in this country.
I get it. Yeah.
How? You know what I mean? Like, and at college, at least you'll get an opportunity, to coach and hopefully, be able to make an impact. Because I agree with all those names. I agree with all those guys should be guys that should be, up next, for these jobs. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't know.
When you think of some of their playing, like DeMarcus Beasley played everywhere, and he played we've watched that play since he was 14 or 15.
Right.
He just retired yesterday. The guy has just such a body of work on the players' end that you would think that he's someone that they would have taken and groomed. He's played under almost every single national team head coach. He's played across different countries, different places. He's been able to fit in well. He's a likable personality. He knows the game. That's the guy you want. And Gucci Nye was the same thing. He was one of the best players. Yeah, all over the place. A business owner. These are guys. It's like, why aren't they jumping at some of these guys? And we have to start asking those questions.
Well, and I agree with you, Nicole. I think the whole grooming process is one that I don't know how much these kids, while they're playing, DeMarcus Beasley, perfect example, while he's playing, did anybody get in his ear and just say, hey, why don't you start your coaching licenses? Why don't you start networking on the coaching side? For me, my head coach, Bob Gansler, from day one when I got there with him, and it's a white guy, knew that I was kind of a sponge with soccer. I love soccer, this and that. And he told me, hey, you need to start getting your licenses right now. You know what I mean? You need to start doing all these little things while I was still playing. So when I was done, it was all right. What do you want to do? How do you want to coach? Where do you want to coach type of thing? And that's all of a sudden I'm in with the youth national teams. I'm in with U.S. soccer. I'm in, into the college game. And it's all because a white man, put his arm around me and said, hey, these are some of the ways that, you can start to get into the game early on.
It's going to look like that. Yeah.
That was a great point because I wanted to bring that out. And I know, like, when we're playing and we're all in it and we're doing well, right? The time to act is when you're playing in the hot, and then you just try to get a license on the off season or something like that, right? And if you don't start doing that, and then you wait until after the fact, then you'll come back the ball, And then so that was a great point. I wanted to bring that out, but you brought it.
I'll be honest. I got my A license. I got pushed through. I'll tell you right now. I don't know if I was a good coach or not, but the fact that I won an MLS championship, I got pushed through. You know what I mean?
Just like everyone else.
And that's how it should be. And
just like everyone else. Absolutely.
But they're not. I don't know if anybody's really fostering them or mentoring them to do that.
You know what they said when I talked to him about that? DeMarcus said that he was so focused on his career, he wouldn't even take interviews. So he said he wouldn't even do press and media. He was just so focused on playing, and he was going to. He was older at the time. He was just fixated on just getting on the field and being able to perform. So he just had that tunnel vision. So he wasn't thinking about that. He's thinking about ownership now. But he wasn't thinking about it.
That's even better.
Yeah.
So for us in the younger generation, those who are playing right now, those who are going to be up and coming, those in college right now and academy levels as well, how should we be using our voices and our platforms to make a change? From your guys' perspective, how should we be continuously use our voice and our platforms to make a difference?
I think it comes down to a power dynamic, right? And I think right now with the connections that you have, you need to be putting your team around you so that when your career's done, you're in a position where your voice matters. And I think a lot of times people are thinking, what can I do right now that's tangible? No, you need to be building what's going to happen that's going to create something that's sustainable in the future. A lot of people are just about what's going to happen today, and that's important. But I'm thinking about what's going to happen that's going to change the landscape for the rest of this next generation so that things are better. So what I would say to you and a lot of these other guys are building those relationships with stakeholders so that you, when you're done playing, you can be in a power position to start making some decisions. That's what I would say.
I like that.
Yeah, and to you know, definitely piggyback off of what Nicole is saying. One thing that if I could talk to my, you know, 22-year-old self when I graduated from Delaware, I would say stick in an area. You know, stick in an area and really grow and develop that area. The Washington D.C. area, you know, Hugh, I know you're from Gaithersburg, but you know, it's a big, wide area. I wish I would have stayed a little bit longer in Prince George's County and continued to grow it. I mean, my business has now taken off and it's throughout the Washington, D.C. area, in D.C. and Virginia. But if I really focused in on one area, then I could have gotten the stakeholders like Nicole mentioned, the political people behind me. I could have, you know, done a lot more. You know, with you guys getting ready to retire, you're gonna have a lot of energy. The energy, I think, kind of weans a little bit, especially when you constantly getting pushed back. So I would definitely say focus in on a specific area and really grow it.
Yeah. Hey, Justin, I'll piggyback on that. And I mean, you're absolutely right. I've been in Bethesda. Since 1997.
Yep.
Been in Bethesda 1997, right? And then started coaching. And I pretty much just stuck it with the same club. And with all of that, I went on to develop like over 40 players onto the youth national team, senior national team players. I have players going all throughout Europe. And on my club team, on my Bethesda Roadrunner team, I had 9 national team players on the same team and 4 in residency from the same team.
Talk about it.
The club team. And then so this is what I've been doing. And since I got into Howard, I'm also like giving scholarships and talking to those kids about how important education is, and then giving back in soccer, getting involved with coaching and things like that, you know. Once we can start doing that, I think it'll take root. I'm advising Joseph. Even I brought him to Bethesda. Joseph did some clinics with Bethesda. And, you know, I'm trying to like start a little foundation for him. And then as soon as he's finished with the MLS, boom, straight into coaching, you know, hitting the ground running. And then so we need to start, you know, getting involved in these kind of ways. And I think that's the best way to go about it.
Definitely agree with that. And I mean, you can go anywhere. Like I was talking to Marcelo Valencia, Philip. I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned your name. And he said, Philip Zhao. We know Philip Zhao. Everybody, you know him throughout an area, but you stayed in one area specifically and kind of build that name up, which is excellent. You know, so that's something I would recommend. If you choose to stay in Charlotte, you know, focus in on that area. I mean, you already got a great name in terms of playing for the USL team. Hopefully you get an opportunity to play for the MLS squad in Charlotte to continue to build your brand.
I'll say use us. I would say use us. That's what I would say. Use us.
For real.
Use us, man. He's got to use us. You have all these people that's around you that has been through it, done it. Use us. Let us come in and help you build what you're trying to build. Because we like to go on our own a lot, but there's so many Black coaches who can help you. And we're all willing to do it. You're going to have to pay for a hotel and a meal here and there, but we'll come in and we'll come work for and help you. I mean, that's something that I enjoy the most. When I go to different tournaments, when I'm coaching, I love meeting the guys who I've battled against and played against, and then say to them, hey, take a look at this kid. And the thing about it, even though that coach didn't have a video of that kid, he respects your values because he knows you're not going to guide him the wrong way. And 90% of coaches that I've sent to colleges, the coaches never even asked me for anything because I'm recommending my name, because I know my name is not going to try and destroy what you're trying to do. So use us, man. Use the older guys. And I'm talking much older than you. You're a kid. Use the older guys. We'll be there to help you, man. We want to make you become better.
That's 100% true, because I know you and I, we've had conversations all the time about players. And if you tell me a kid's good, that's good enough for me. You know what I mean? I don't even need to see the kid, play. The one thing I would say is just figure out what you want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the biggest thing is, like, what do you want? I mean, there's so many different ways you can take this, that you can make an impact, whether you're an agent, you go club route, you go the college route, do you want to start, trying to, a pro route, as far as, coaching and things like that. Finding what you want to do and then start that path now while you're playing. You know what I mean? Don't wait until you have 2 years left or 1 year left to say, okay, now I'm going to get into coaching. Well, your career is over now, and so you need to make money at the end of the day. You need to feed yourself. So figure it out now and then start that path, so that, you can start to gain some momentum. And then, like Brian says, reach out, and, try to, have people, help you, along the way. Because I do think that's, something that can be very beneficial.
Definitely. I mean, Hugh, you know how many times we talk. And so, like, even our first conversation, and when it was about figuring out, like, what's your plan afterwards, because there's always life after soccer, but it's never too early to think about it. And so I think for guys like you are way ahead of a lot of players, and I'm not just saying that because I'm your agent, but I'm just saying, like, you really are.
We didn't know.
Like, you really are ahead, right, of a lot of players, and when I talk to different players, sometimes I won't sign a player if they're not really sure, because it doesn't work for me. I'm a person who's always forward thinking. I'm always thinking about the future, and that's my job, to be able to kind of help you, be able to accomplish all those things. And so for guys like you, you're already there, because you have taken those steps, right? By obviously creating something like Backyard Footy, and then the foundation now. So, and then you coach here and there. So even with that, and then eventually possibly getting into, like, creating maybe your own soccer camp. I mean, we've talked about that too. Whether that's something that's in Charlotte or something that's in, like DC back home, it's things like that where you're able to give back, because there's so many kids that, I always say this, you can't be what you can't see. And for these young kids, for them to want to say, I want to be a soccer player, imagine if you go to the inner cities, these kids, they don't really know the Black players. They know, like, who Cristiano Ronaldo is. Right. They know who, like, Leo Messi is, but do they know a Hugh Roberts? Or even if you go to, like, maybe East Charlotte, where that's a huge, more of like an inner city area, these kids need to say, well, I want to be like Hugh Roberts. He's playing for Charlotte Independence. I want to do that someday. So, creating things like that, whether it's a small soccer camp or something to just give back to the community, is so important. I mean, obviously, on the financial side, while you're playing, making sure, that part is well set up for the future, because that's key, So you're already there. But as far as other players, they need to kind of take a page from your book and see what you're doing. So.
For me,
Andrew, I was gonna say, so I can call you out, Andrew.
Of course, I can always rely on Nicole to call me out. Always rely on her. I would say number one is cultivating your relationships, right? And make sure that you always do that year by year. For me, it always started with, my college coach, and, always speaking with him and touching base with him and learning, my coaching philosophy is molded after him. Right. And so always bouncing ideas when it comes to college soccer and just navigating the college realm. He was just he is to this day, such a great resource. Dave Sayward, he's retired now. And then on the second point is trying to get a variety of experiences as possible, and not relying on, this single route of, I'm going to do my licenses and that's that. It's, can I travel? Can I, shadow a coach at, a professional club or a college program? Can I, go to Spain, bring a team over there and compete in a tournament? And that begins to open up your eyes, as a coaching perspective. But then, as you're there in that country, you start to maybe ask yourself some questions. Hey, maybe it's the marketing side because I like how this tournament was set up and I like the sponsorship, avenue of it, or the presentation. You begin to see other things and it begins to open up your mind. So try to get as many experiences as possible in the soccer realm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Andrew. And Hugh, I'll also say use LinkedIn as much as possible. I mean, LinkedIn is just an amazing source. I've made a goal to meet 3 new people on LinkedIn every single day who are in direct competition to what I'm doing. And it's just been amazing. You meet people from all over the world. So eventually, like Andrew mentioned, if you do take a trip to Spain, you've already got your contacts there that you've already started to cultivate. And then there'll be a snowball effect because that person is going to put you in touch with somebody else and somebody else. Next thing you know, you go to Spain for a week, you leave with 20, 25 contacts.
Right.
You siphon through it and you see who can help you and how can you help them in return. And then you keep the relationships going. Yeah.
Definitely agree. And I appreciate you guys for all this insight. Man, but seriously, we're going to need a part 2 soon. Honestly, this is one of the, for me as a player, I know everyone listening to this is going to be really, they're going to learn a lot from this. So as a player, I commend you guys for just speaking up and giving me this opportunity to listen to you guys because I learned a lot. You really don't hear the coach's perspective at all. You start to hear more players, but the coaches, they're treated just as bad as us players. And I really commend you guys for speaking up and I've learned a lot. So like I said, we might have to do a part 2 soon. I'm going to hit you guys up. Feel free to reach out to other Black coaches in this country. I definitely want to keep this going. Like Nicole was saying earlier, we just need to keep this conversation going, keep this momentum going. So I definitely want to consider having a part 2. If you guys want to reach out to some other coaches that you guys know, it'd be definitely appreciated. And like I said, too, thank you guys for coming on the show. I'm going to send you guys the link and promote this thing like crazy. It should be out next week. But really appreciate you guys for coming on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Can we get a list of the people on the call, the phone numbers and stuff? Unless Philip don't want to give out his phone number.
I'll put everybody. I'll do that right now. I'll put everyone in the group chat so we're all on top.
Especially the lady who needs, that lady who's an agent. That's all I'm saying.
I got you, especially.
I will be reaching out. I apologize.
Yeah.
Who's that, Bo? That's you?
Bo.
Okay. just you too. I'm still waiting for the acceptance, Justin, on the LinkedIn request.
Me?
Justin. Yes, you.
On LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do it right now. When did you send that?
Man, like months ago.
Lord.
Months ago. Oh, boy. Oh,
I keep my receipts, okay? I keep my receipts.
I'm doing it right now.
Andrew, you good because you were one of the first. So.
Okay.
Andrew, you're safe on this side.
I'm not giving Brian my contact because he's going to hunt me for money. That's all he wants.
No, absolutely. I think it's truly, important, because there's only but so many of us in this space. Yeah. I mean, at least for me on the agent side, like being a female it's tough and then being a Black female, especially here in the U.S., it's like there's no other, females. And so Nicole has been like a big sister to me, just really, helpful. Andrew, you two have done a lot to even help me out. So I appreciate that. Hugh, you make my job great because it's easy to do with you. It's not like you're one of those players that causes a lot of trouble for me, which is good. And, obviously to the rest of you coaches, I mean, I'm a huge, huge fan of the sport. And then of course, just seeing the work that you guys do in and out, it's like Nicole said before, it needs to be highlighted. It's so important. And I'm just grateful to be able to be on this call with you guys. So thank you so much, Hugh.
Thank you.
I just want to add one last thing because I think it's important, especially like with what I'm trying to do with my group is to definitely show the unity of when Black people come together with good intentions, with a pure heart, with a pure mind, what we can do together. So it's also almost coming up with a code of conduct on how we interact with each other, how we lift each other up. For me, there's no competition. It's community first. So you'll always see that with anything we post is community first, because we have to love each other. We have to support each other. And we know we have this young man who's coming up. We want to make sure he's successful. Every single person on this call, we want to make sure they're successful. The advancement of blacks in the sport of the soccer should really be all of our goal and our mission. Each other up. I think that's really, really important for us to set that example.
Definitely.
Well said.
Well said.
I'll be sending you guys a link soon for video and Apple Podcast. I'm putting everyone in the group chat right now so we all can see.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you guys again.
Perfect. Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you
guys.
so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great rest of the
Thank you
weekend.
so much.
Of course.
All right. Take care,
care.
everybody.
Guys.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.